Going to get you all the details on that front on the show today. Stay tuned.
Well, also on the show from the U.S. House, Democrats released 68 new photos from Jeffrey Epstein estate on Thursday, intensifying pressure on Donald Trump's administration. This is just ahead of a deadline, which is to disclose federal files on the disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein. The images published without context include redacted passports and IDs of fueling fresh political controversy in Washington, as now lawmakers are escalating transparency demands. We'll get you all the updates on that as well on the show. Let's begin with the headlines.
Violence erupts in Bangladesh after uprising leader Sharif Osman Hadi dies in Singapore hospital following an assassination attempt. Several buildings, including major newspaper offices, were set on fire.
Australia PM Anthony Albanese announces national gun buyback scheme to remove high-powered firearms following deadly Bondi Beach mass shooting, saying the country needs to get more guns off the streets.
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope Ukraine moves quickly. I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much time, then Russia changes their mind.
Donald Trump says Ukraine-Russia peace talks are getting close to something and urges Ukraine to act quickly ahead of news discussions in Miami this week, warning that D-Days could allow Russia to change its position.
A business jet crashed shortly after takeoff from Statesville Airport in North Carolina, killing all 7 people on board. Among the victims was retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle and members of his family.
Donald Trump asserts he does not need congressional approval to launch strikes on land against Venezuela, despite criticism that he is already exceeding his constitutional authority with attacks at sea.
Aside from everything else, we now have peace in the Middle East. Yeah, he'll probably come to see me in Florida.
U.S. to host talks in Miami to advance next phase of Gaza ceasefires. The Wickoff to meet officials from Qatar, Egypt and Turkey as efforts to implement the deal face delays. Trump says Israeli PM is likely to visit him soon. Signing of trade deal between the European Union and South American bloc Mercosur postponed to January after farmers staged show of force against packed outside of Brussels Leaders Summit. Thousands of Bulgarians protest against the outgoing government, demanding fair elections and judicial reforms to tackle what they say is widespread corruption in the European Union's poorest member state.
para produzir a campanha.
TikTok says it has signed a joint venture deal with investors that would allow the company to maintain operations in the United States and avoid a ban threat over its Chinese ownership.
Now, Bangladesh is once again on the boil.
Violence has broken out in Dhaka over the death of youth leader of the country's 2024 pro-democracy uprising.
Osman Hadi, who was injured in an assassination attempt last week, died in a hospital in Singapore.
Thousands of protesters took to the streets after the announcement of Hadi's death, demanding that his killers be arrested. Several buildings in the capital, including those housing the country's two leading newspapers, were also set on fire.
Now, the first attack came on Prothomalo, where the crowd had gone chanting slogans. The crowd vandalized the office before setting it on fire around 12 a.m. They then vandalized the ground and first floors of Daily Star before putting it ablaze at about 12:30 a.m. local time. The blaze quickly engulfed the two floors, sending a huge column of smoke into the air.
The fire service could not reach the building for some time because the crowd blocked their way. The entire night shift fled to the roof to save their lives, pleading for help through phone calls and social media posts. Firefighters eventually reached the site and brought the fire under control at around 2 a.m.
However, the journalists could not be brought out immediately because the crowd stormed the building after the fire was extinguished. The House of India's Deputy Ambassador to Bangladesh was also surrounded by hundreds of people who were trying to demonstrate in a sit-in, but police threw tear gas shells to disperse the crowd. In addition, protesters blocked a key highway leading from the capital and attacked the residence of a former minister in Chittagong.
Well, protesters also attacked Chadnaut, which is a center in Dhaka devoted to Bengali culture.
Now, earlier on Friday, Singaporean authorities had announced that Hadi had died in a local hospital, and Singapore's Foreign Affairs Ministry in a statement said it was assisting Bangladesh authorities with repatriating his body. The interim government in Bangladesh, headed by Nobel laureate Muhammad Yunus, also confirmed the death.
I want to state clearly that Osman Hadi was an enemy of the defeated forces of fascist terror. Any attempt to silence his voice to intimidate revolutionaries will be decisively resisted. The country's march toward democracy cannot be halted through fear, terror, or bloodshed.
The government also announced special prayers at mosques on Friday and a half-day mourning on Saturday. Bangladeshi police have meanwhile launched a manhunt for Hadi's shooter, releasing photographs of key suspects and offering a reward of $42,000 for information leading to their arrest.
Now, this is news from Bangladesh, which is once again on a boil. Violence has now broken out in Dhaka over the death of a youth leader of the country's 2024 pro-democracy uprising.
Sharif Osman Hadi, who was injured in an assassination attempt last week, died in a hospital in Singapore, and thousands of protesters took to the streets after the announcement of Hadi's death, demanding that his killers be arrested. Well, several buildings in the capital, including those housing the country's two leading newspapers, were set on fire.
Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has said he has no problem informing Congress if there is a possible attack on Venezuela. Now, first, let's listen to what he said.
I wouldn't mind telling him, but it's not a big deal. I don't have to tell him; it's been proven. But I wouldn't mind at all. I just hope they wouldn't leak it. You know, people leak it. They are politicians, and they leak like a sieve.
Earlier this week, President Trump ordered a complete blockade of all sanctioned oil tankers attempting to leave Venezuelan waters, as well as those arriving, and while the United States massed troops and warships in the region.
In response, Russia has warned the Trump administration against what it described as a fatal mistake. Russian officials say Moscow remains in close contact with authorities in Caracas and caution that further escalation could lead to unpredictable consequences for the entire Western Hemisphere.
Now, Washington says it is squeezing Venezuela's main source of revenue as part of an effort to target terrorism, drug smuggling and human trafficking. Just last week, the U.S. Coast Guard seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela.
Meanwhile, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has accused the United States of trying to seize the OPEC nation's crude oil resources, saying the military buildup is aimed at overthrowing his government.
Venezuela has now requested an emergency meeting of the United Nations Security Council to discuss what it calls ongoing U.S. aggression. And this is according to a letter sent to the 15-member body. The Security Council presidency has confirmed that the Council will hold an emergency meeting on the situation in Venezuela on Tuesday.
Absolutely. Now, the regional leaders have also moved to ease the tensions. Brazil's President Lula da Silva has said that he is very worried about the growing crisis on Brazil's doorstep.
I spoke with President Maduro and told him that if he wanted Brazil to help in any way, he had to say what he would like us to do. And I told Trump, if you think Brazil can contribute, we are very interested in talking to Venezuela and talking to you, talking to other countries, so that we can avoid armed conflict here in Latin America and in our beloved South America.
Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum is offered to act as a mediator between Washington and Caracas to find a peaceful solution and also to avoid U.S. military intervention.
Meanwhile, U.S. military aircraft are operating at an airport in eastern Puerto Rico, part of a major American force buildup across the Caribbean.
The escalation comes as U.S. strikes on alleged drug smuggling boats in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific have left at least 99 people dead, with 4 more fatalities reported in the latest strike. U.S. President Donald Trump has said that discussions are getting close to something ahead of U.S. talks with Russian officials this weekend.
Now, he has now urged Ukraine to move quickly towards a deal to end the Russian invasion. Listen to this first.
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope Ukraine moves quickly. I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much time, then Russia changes their mind. 27,000 soldiers were killed last month.
Now, Trump's comments come as fighting continues on the ground with new reports of deadly drone attacks inside Russia. Ukrainian drone attacks killed 3 people, including 2 crew members of a cargo vessel in Rostov region. 7 more people were wounded in Pataysk.
Moscow says it has strengthened its military capabilities this year. It has formed a new military brigade which is equipped with its hypersonic intermediate-range ballistic missile, which is also known as Oreshnik. Russia first fired the Oreshnik missile at Ukraine in November 2024.
Now, President Vladimir Putin has claimed the weapon is impossible to intercept and has destructive power comparable to a nuclear weapon, even when carrying a conventional warhead. Though these claims have been dismissed as exaggerated by some Western experts. And while it's a make or break moment for Europe, after months of debate, the European Union will decide on whether to use Russia's immobilized assets to fund Ukraine's war effort.
Well, that's right, and it is a crucial and a very critical test of the group's strength as it huddles for crunch talks in Brussels. The European Union sees Russia's war as a threat to its own security. Now, as the war nears its 4th anniversary, the bloc wants to keep Ukraine financed and fighting.
It has proposed using frozen Russian assets to secure a huge loan to Kiev. The European Union has frozen $247 billion of Russian central bank assets, which are mostly held at Euroclear in Brussels.
Well, the complex plan involves EU lending an initial amount of $108.5 billion to Ukraine. Now, this is about two-thirds of Kiev's funding needs for 2026 and 2027. The EU expects Ukraine's other allies to provide the rest.
Now we have a simple choice. Either money today or blood tomorrow. And I am not talking about Ukraine only, I am talking about Europe. And this is our decision to make, and only ours. I think all European leaders have to finally rise to this occasion.
Sie kennen meine Position.
My impression is that we can reach an agreement. I understand the concerns of some member states, especially the Belgian government, but I hope that together we can overcome them and that together we can embark on a path to send a signal of strength and resolve from the EU towards Russia.
Die Bedenken, die es bei einigen Mitgliedstaaten gibt.
But touching the assets is a much more controversial step. Belgium, the host of the lion's share of the assets, has described the EU plan as fundamentally wrong. The Belgian government argues that the plan would be seen as confiscation. It fears if Moscow is successful in suing Euroclear and seizing Belgian property in Russia, it could be left with multi-billion euro bills without strong EU guarantees.
We staan in het juiste kamp.
We are on the right side. We are ready to offer sacrifices, but there is no free money. Putin's money is not free. Headroom is also not free. That's money didn't grow on trees. It's money that now can no longer be spent on anything else. We are prepared to make that sacrifice. My hope is that, at some point, we will be able to announce that we have reached a political agreement.
Buiten te komen en te zeggen wij hebben een politiek.
While countries like Italy, Hungary, Slovakia have also expressed similar worries about the legal and financial risks that could escalate the Ukraine war.
Guarantees for what? The whole idea is a stupid one. To take away the money of somebody. There are two countries which are in war, yeah? It's not European Union, Russia and Ukraine. And somebody, European Union, would like to take away the money of one of the warriors party and then to give it to another one. It's a marching into the war. So the Belgian Prime Minister is right. We should not do that.
Now, with no U.S. military aid, President Volodymyr Zelensky has been moving from pillar to post, seeking money and weapons to fight against Russia. Ukrainian military chief claims 710,000 Russian troops are knocking at its door as Russian President Vladimir Putin plans a high-stakes offensive on Ukraine's front lines.
Zelensky, who has been pleading for security guarantees, has not gotten any clarity from the US yet. He says a decision on the plan to use Russian assets is necessary to plug Ukraine's budget gap.
There's a question I still can't get an answer to. Not being able to get an answer doesn't mean someone doesn't want to respond. It's just that we haven't gotten to it yet. The question is about all the security guarantees. I will judge only one thing. The answer to the question of what the United States of America will do if Russia comes again with aggression. What will these security guarantees do? How will they work?
Moscow, on the other hand, warns that using the frozen assets to finance a loan would be considered as theft of someone else's property. Putin and his advisors have issued dark warnings about the consequences for European economic stability and investor faith in the Eurozone.
Well, 7 people have been killed after a business jet crash while landing at Statesville Regional Airport in North Carolina.
And authorities say among the dead are retired NASCAR driver Greg Biffle, his wife, and their 2 children.
The aircraft, a Cessna Citation C-550, went down about 72 kilometers north of Charlotte around 10:15 a.m. local time. The plane had been headed to Florida but turned back shortly after takeoff due to severe weather. Now, local media described drizzle and low clouds at the time of the crash. Photos from the scene showed a large fire on the runway with debris scattered across the area. First responders rushed to the runway as flames burned near the wreckage.
Now, the airport was closed following the crash to clear debris before reopening. Public records show the plane was owned by GB Aviation Leasing, a company tied to Biffle. The National Transportation Safety Board said it is sending a team to investigate the crash.
While condoling the demise of Biffle, NASCAR in its statement called him one of its 75 greatest drivers and praised his humanitarian work after retirement. Described as a family friend, Republican lawmaker Richard Hudson said that the victims included Biffle's wife, Christina Grosso Biffle, and their 2 children. Biffle won 90 NASCAR Cup Series races over a 20-year career. He was named one of NASCAR's 75 greatest drivers in 2023.
The NTSB will be the investigating agency, and they are the ones that will be able to determine what occurred with this crash. They're planning on being here first thing in the morning. Members of the FAA have been here throughout the night, but those NTSB folks will be here in the morning.
And the hunt for the person who shot and killed 2 students at Brown University has entered a 6th day.
While U.S. officials have reportedly identified the suspect in the shooting incident.
And CNN has cited 2 unnamed law enforcement officials familiar with the case as saying investigators believe they have pinpointed a suspect. Now, CBS News reported similar information.
Rhode Island Attorney General Peter Nerona vowed the gunman will be caught, adding that it is just a matter of time as he praised an intensive multi-agency investigation.
There's no lack of resources. Everyone's working really well together. And we're going to crack this case. And when we crack it, it's going to come open really quickly.
The shooting happened on Saturday, 13th of December, when a man with rifle burst into a campus building at the Ivy League college where students were taking exams. The man opened fire and then fled.
Investigators have released images of a person of interest and individual who was seen standing near that person in an effort to trace them. Well, Providence Police Chief Colonel Oscar Perez appealed for the public's help, identifying a person of interest which was shown in the surveillance stills, and also warned residents not to share unverified AI-generated images circulating online. Perez described the probe as probably the most intense investigation going on right now in the nation.
It takes a lot to be able to knock on doors, seize videos. There's terabytes of videos that you have to look, and I mentioned it yesterday. We're looking for a moment that takes almost less than a second. And if you miss it, you're missing something that could be critical and important for us to use. And so, yes, it's definitely an intense.
And with that, it's time for a short break on World DNA.
But don't go anywhere. Lost signed up on the other side of the break. The rebel M23 group in Democratic Republic of Congo has begun its withdrawal from the city of Riva. And visuals do show several armed rebels leaving the place in a truck. We'll get you all the details on that story on the other side.
Also coming up on the other side, France is facing a surge of lumpy skin disease in several herds of cattle. The French Air Force has flown vaccines to rural France. All this and more coming up on the other side of World DNA. Stay tuned, you're watching Beyond World is One.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
As cinephiles reel from the shocking death of filmmaker Rob Reiner, we look at the cinema icon's rich legacy. Soak in the holiday spirit with our list of Christmas movies. And know all about the defining K-pop moments of 2025. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. and millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS Centenary Year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. You're watching World DNA with me, Jyotsna Kumar, and my colleague Diksha Bisla. Let's begin with the headlines.
Violence erupts in Bangladesh after uprising leader Sharif Osman Hadi dies in Singapore hospital following an assassination attempt. Several buildings, including major newspaper offices, were set on fire.
European Union leaders strike an overnight deal to provide 90 billion euros in support to Ukraine over the next 2 years. European Council President makes announcement on X.
Well, they're getting close to something, but I hope Ukraine moves quickly. I hope Ukraine moves quickly because Russia's there. And, every time they take too much time, then Russia changes their mind.
Donald Trump says Ukraine-Russia peace talks are getting closer to something and urges Ukraine to act quickly ahead of new discussions in Miami this weekend, warning that delays could allow Russia to change its position.
U.S. House Democrats released 68 new photographs from Epstein's estate, increasing pressure on Trump administration ahead of deadline to release federal files.
U.S. officials identify a suspect in the Brown University shooting that killed 2 students and injured several others, marking a major breakthrough in the case, U.S. media reports.
Australia PM Anthony Albanese announces national gun buyback scheme to remove high-powered firearms following Delhi Bondi Beach mass shooting, saying the country needs to get more guns off the streets.
Aside from everything else, we now have peace in the Middle East. Yeah, he'll probably come to see me in Florida.
U.S. to host talks in Miami to advance next phase of Gaza ceasefires. Steve Witkoff to meet officials from Qatar, Egypt and Turkey as efforts to implement the deal face delays, and Trump says that Israeli Prime Minister is likely to visit him soon.
Thousands of Argentine workers marched to Buenos Aires in a show of force against a proposed labor reform by President Javier Milei's government, which unions say would erode job security and workers' rights.
The November U.S. inflation report shows that the consumer price index slowed to 2.7% from 3% in September. But stubbornly high costs for essentials like beef, coffee and electricity point towards the ongoing affordability challenges for American households. The rebel M23 group in Democratic Republic of Congo has begun its withdrawal from a key city on the eastern border.
And leaders of the group announced this decision a week after capturing the city of Uvira last week. Leaders of the M23 group says the withdrawal is underway as an effort to uphold U.S. peace efforts in the civil war-torn country. Now, visuals show several armed rebels leaving Uvira in a truck. A key administrative building which they had occupied days ago is now also empty.
But residents of the city are now concerned of a leadership void. Locals are increasingly worried about the city's security as state authorities are yet to assume control of Uvira.
Our main request, as the population, is that we cannot manage here. There are many state properties that must be secured by the state, and we, the civilians, also have the right to protection from the state. Therefore, we ask the authorities in Kinshasa to send people who will properly secure our city of Uvira.
Locals in from the violent strife region have also accused the Wazalendo militia of committing abuse against civilians.
The international community must respect the rights of the people of Uvira. The Wazalendo committed many abuses and harassment that cannot be explained. Today, we are asking the M23 to withdraw. This is truly a big surprise.
Well, Wazalendo is an umbrella organization consisting of several local groups backed by the Congolese army. Several human rights groups have earlier accused them of committing widespread abuses against civilians in the South Kivu province.
Moving on, the United States has announced a new round of sanctions on Iran's shadow fleet, which it says exports Iranian oil and petroleum products.
Well, the U.S. Treasury Department has sanctioned 29 shadow fleet vessels. A statement released by the department claims that these vessels are engaged in the covert delivery of hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Iranian oil and petroleum products. Now, among the entities sanctioned is a network of companies and vessels which are operated by an Egyptian businessman, and several companies active in countries including the UAE, India, the Marshall Islands and Panama.
The action follows reports of U.S. forces seizing a ship allegedly carrying Chinese-made dual-use components to Iran. According to a report by the Wall Street Journal, the ship was several hundred kilometers off the coast of Sri Lanka when the U.S. operators boarded it and confiscated the cargo before letting the vessel proceed.
Now, the operation reportedly took place in November, just weeks before U.S. forces seized an oil tanker off the coast of Venezuela, and this is citing sanctions violations.
The operation comes amid U.S. efforts to curb Iran's military buildup, including its nuclear and missiles programs, and this following U.S. and Israeli airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities in June.
U.S. accuses China of supplying Iran with dual-use components that could potentially support Tehran's efforts to rebuild and modernize its ballistic missile forces.
Now, back in April, the U.S. imposed sanctions on 6 entities and 6 individuals based on Iran and China for helping Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Co. to procure chemical ingredients used to produce solid propellant rockets, motors for ballistic missiles.
All right, and moving on, France is facing a surge of lumpy skin disease in several herds of cattle. Meanwhile, French authorities are scrambling to stop the spread.
And the government has now begun a widespread vaccination program, and the French Air Force has also joined in the efforts.
An Airbus A400 military transport plane is carrying the vaccines to rural France. So far, authorities have shipped 400,000 doses to the southwestern part of the country. The French government has also decided to strengthen controls to combat the spread of the disease.
Overall, this is what we call a logistics operation. So we're in a peacetime zone. We're simply transporting freight from point A to point B. The only unusual aspect is that we're doing it under tight deadlines. That's a real characteristic of military operations, where orders arrive late, and we adapt and make the mission possible as quickly as possible. We work fast, we do things well, precisely, and efficiently.
Lumpy skin disease is not contagious to humans. It was first detected in France on June 29th, and since then, a total of 113 cases have been detected. Some 3,000 cattle have been slaughtered to stop the spread.
Mass cow culling has angered French farmers. They are calling on authorities to stop the mass slaughter of cattle. Thousands of farmers are taking their tractors out to the streets in protest. And several motorways and train lines remain blocked. While manure is also being dumped outside government buildings. But despite the mounting anger, French authorities have insisted on the twofold approach of cow culling and mass vaccination.
All right, Ravi, some breaking news just coming in. A law enforcement official has told the Associated Press media that a man suspected of killing 2 and wounding several others at Brown University has been found dead.
And this is in a New Hampshire storage facility. Well, the development comes after hours after authorities said that the shooter will be caught and urged him to turn himself in. An official confirmation on the suspect's death is still awaited.
And I will tell you that he took his own life tonight. We have members of the Providence Police Department up in Salem, New Hampshire. And we also have the BCI unit. Obviously, the FBI and their evidence recovery unit is up there. So the process is being conducted as we speak. And it goes without saying that I would like to personally thank the efforts again of the Providence Police Department, the Rhode Island State Police, the Rhode Island Attorney General, the FBI, the ATF, HSI, the U.S. Marshals, IRS, DEA, Secret Service, and NCIS. There is no way that we could have done this by ourselves. In this nation, when horrific incidents like this happen, law enforcement steps up. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Colonel. General Arona.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. You know, I would describe the emotions on the investigative team, including our prosecutors and the agents, detectives from both state police, Providence, as mixed. You know, there is a sense of completeness in terms of the investigation, an investigation that's, if not the hardest, among the handful of hardest investigations that I've ever been involved with, and the sense that we owed those 2 dead Brown students and the 9 injured Brown students and the students who were in that auditorium that weren't injured, and the Brown community and the Providence community results. The teams worked really hard. I think I mentioned that to you almost every night that we met with you. I wish they were all up here with us. That we wouldn't fit here, but it was remarkable to see the cooperation between the FBI agents, the ATF agents, the HSI agents, the Providence police detectives, the state police detectives, our prosecutors. And I will say that everybody brought a certain expertise to the table, but it is nevertheless a sad moment when you think about those young people who were hurt, injured, or worse, 2 of them are now deceased. You know, to me, this was always going to be an investigation where something was going to break it open. We were going to pull threads. We were going to gather evidence that would lead us in a particular direction. And I will say that if we were with you less than, well, I guess now more than 24 hours ago, we had that picture of that second individual. And I would say within an hour, no more than 2, I think it was under an hour, that person came forward to 2 Providence police officers over on the east side and said he had information, that he was that person and he had information that could help this case. And I remember last night watching his interview, and he blew this case right open. He blew it open. And that's how these cases sometimes go. You can feel like you're not making a lot of progress. You can feel like you're chasing leads and they don't work out. But the team keeps going because, you know, those of us with experience know that you're going to pull a lot of threads, and it's not always the first one that's going to get you where you need to go. But when you do crack it, you crack it. And that person led us to the car, which led us to the name, which led us to the photographs of that individual renting the car, which matched the clothing of our shooter here in Providence, that matched the satchel that we see here in Providence. He was found dead with a satchel, with 2 firearms, and evidence in the car that that matches exactly what we see at the scene here in Providence. I know that you and the public have questions about how we got from a place yesterday where all we could share with you was a photograph of someone we wanted to talk to where we got to tonight. We got a state arrest warrant for murder today that was signed by a district court judge for this individual. There won't be a prosecution now, of course, but that affidavit is on our website, and you will be able to see more and read more about how this investigation unfolded. I won't get you all the way there because there are some things that happened afterwards which led us to this suspect's body in New Hampshire. But it will, I think, tell you, give you a sense of the work that went into this by the line prosecutors and the line agents and detectives from the agencies that work so well together. So, as I said, it's with mixed emotions. It is unimaginable, the pain that the parents and families of the deceased are feeling tonight and will feel undoubtedly for quite a while. But I hope that by bringing this person to justice, that we can at least give them the beginnings of some measure of closure. And I want to thank you all for your patience with me when I got a little testy with some of you. Those of you who know me from Rhode Island, you know that's my nature. So I really want to thank you for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, General. As has been said several times, the partnership with the FBI was invaluable. And so it's a pleasure to introduce Special Agent in Charge of FBI, Ted Dox.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening. My name is Ted Dox, Special Agent in Charge of FBI Boston. We got him. Shortly before 9 o'clock tonight, the FBI SWAT team executed court-authorized search warrants at a storage unit facility in Hampshire Road in Salem, New Hampshire. This is where we located Claudio Neves Valente, the individual who we believe was responsible for the Brown shooting. The latest developments in an intense 5-day manhunt, and as a result of an incredible amount of work dedicated by the law enforcement team standing here before you tonight. Every single agency brought their unique skills and expertise to this investigation, and we're motivated by the victims and survivors of this horrific incident. Even though the suspect was found dead tonight, our work is not done. There are many questions that need to be answered. There's a lot of evidence that needs to be processed.
All right, well, that is Ted Talks, a special agent of the FBI, just briefing on what happened. What we know is now the suspect has been found dead. Just about an hour ago, we were talking about, Diksha, about how they were on the process of, finding the suspect, and now he has been found in New Hampshire. Peter Nerona was speaking, who was the Rhode Island Attorney General right before this FBI agent, of course, talking about how the law enforcement just came together to come to this conclusion.
Right. And after more than doubling over the last 2 years and marking its biggest gains since the 1979 oil crisis this year, gold is forecast to glitter again in 2026.
And we decode those bets and reasons for a gold boost in this next report. Take a look.
Having never hit $3,000 an ounce before March this year, gold surged to a record high of $4,381 this year. For next year, top Wall Street banks see the yellow metal shine further. Analysts from JP Morgan to Bank of America and Goldman Sachs now predict that bullion will reach $5,000 in 2026. That is largely due to an expanding investor pool. Other variables like US policy uncertainty and bets for geopolitical crisis to continue into the new year have also boosted gold bets. The precious metal has gained about 64% this year, reaching multiple new milestones. Usually, such a performance would have meant forecasts or a big correction, but there are no predictions for gold to fall. At best, forecasts show the rally slowing in 2026, even with $5,000 in sight. Investors' gold holdings as a percentage of total assets under management have increased to 2.8% from 1.5% before 2022. While that is elevated, it is not necessarily a ceiling. Morgan Stanley and Goldman Sachs predict that an ounce of gold costs more than $4,500 by mid-2026. JP Morgan forecasts it at over $5,000 by the end of 2026, lining up the bets of consultancy firm Metals Focus. Apart from central banks and investors fueling gold's demand, new players included corporate treasurers and stablecoin issuer Tether. That pattern is set to continue next year. Analysts predict that central banks will continue to diversify their reserves away from dollar-denominated assets in 2026, which should support gold prices. Gregory Scherer, head of base and precious metals strategy at JP Morgan, said, "The price level is supported much higher than where you started because you get the central bank demand coming through." He added, "And then all of a sudden we're sitting above $4,000 in a much cleaner environment from a positioning perspective, which then allows the cycle to continue going forward." According to Michael Widmer, a strategist at BofA, the yellow metal will be boosted by US debt amid widening fiscal deficits and a weak currency policy pushing buyers to diversify their holdings. According to Metals Focus Managing Director Philip Newman, additional support could come from concerns about the independence of the US Federal Reserve, tariff issues and geopolitics, which includes the conflict in Ukraine and Russia's relations with NATO nations in Europe. However, the simultaneous gains in gold and stocks are unprecedented in the last 50 years. That has prompted concerns about a possible bubble in both markets. Business Bureau WION, World is One.
And Zara has become the latest fast fashion retailer to use artificial intelligence to create new images of real models in different outfits.
Well, as part of a broader industry shift aimed at speeding up content production and cutting costs, the move follows similar experiments by rivals, including H&M and European online retailer Zalando.
Zara's owner, Inditex, has said the use of AI is meant to complement, not replace existing creative processes, adding that models are consulted and compensated in line with the industry best practice. The company said any use of AI-generated imagery is agreed on a mutual basis with models and is designed to show the same person in different clothing without requiring a new photo shoot. The development was first reported by London business newspaper City AM, which quoted an unnamed model saying Zara sought permission to edit their images using AI and paid them the same as they would have received for attending another shoot.
Well, H&M and Zalando have also stressed that AI is being used to support creative teams and to improve efficiency rather than to replace photographers or production staff. But the shift has raised concerns within the industry. Isabel Durant, chief executive of the Association of Photographers in London, warned that AI could reduce how often photographers, models and crew are commissioned, impacting an entire ecosystem, including early career fashion photographers. Morning mixed with music in Kingston as thousands gathered to honor late reggae legend Jimmy Cliff.
Fans and leaders and fellow artists filled Jamaica's National Indoor Sports Center to celebrate the life and legacy of the global music icon. We'll leave you with a report on that. Do stay tuned. News and updates will follow on the other side. That's all on World in It from me and Diksha.
Yeah, I like many rivers to cross. I certainly identify with that. But I like even more, you can get it if you really. You can get it if you really want it.
Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh. To some, it's an extreme ideology. To others, it's the very soul of India. To some, it's rebellion. To others, it's a principle of nation building. Coming soon to challenge perceptions in RSS centenary year, Kesariya at 100.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud. The victims, the accused, and the sinister plot. Crime is your front row seat to darkness.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One. From the bustling trading floors of Wall Street to the vibrant exchanges of Asian stock markets, WION breaks it down for you to make sense of what's happening. As we reveal the key factors behind events, strategic battles, and the game-changing business decisions that shape the world. We bring you all of this and more on World Business Watch.
Where darkness hides behind every corner. Where the truth is stranger than fiction. A show that dives deep into the stories which shock and mystify. Unsolved murders. Psychopaths who defy explanation. International war crimes. And millions swindled in financial fraud.